Hello, I'm Justine Willis-Toms. Today I'm hosting Dr. Gail Brenner. She's a psychotherapist and blogger and the author of The End of Self-Help, Discovering Peace and Happiness Right at the Heart of Your Messy, Scary, Brilliant Life. Gail, welcome to the New Dimensions Cafe.
Thank you so much. Thrilled to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you. You suggest that our search to fix what we believe are our inadequacies and failings will not bring us happiness or peace that we're truly seeking. So how may we discover our inherent potential for happiness?
It's about looking at our experience in the moment. So when we're searching for something outside of ourselves that we think is going to make us happy or think is going to fix that thing we think is broken about ourselves, we're assuming that we're missing something. And that is actually not the case. So in the moment when we're searching, we don't have a very happy moment. We're feeling inadequate. We're feeling like something is not okay. And that's the moment where we feel like we're lacking something. So finding the happiness has to happen right in the moment. If we think it's going to happen at some other time or in some other place, we're not ever going to be happy. So when we look and we realize that our attention goes into our thought patterns and our conditioned emotions, and that those are the things that are making us feel like we're unhappy in that moment, that calls us to look deeper, to realize that all of this arises in a presence, in the ground of being that is who we really are. And when we recognize that we don't have to believe those thoughts and feelings about ourselves, we realize that in any moment we can be peaceful.
Okay, let me get practical here.
Yeah.
So let's take a self-help concept such as the law of attraction. So they're saying, our thoughts create our reality. Mm-hmm. And so therefore we need to change our thoughts. We need to replace them, our negative thoughts with something positive, and that will then improve our lives. Mm-hmm. So what would you have to say about that?
My understanding and my experience is that we don't need to change our thoughts into something more positive. We can realize that our attention is going into thoughts that are negative and limiting and maybe even depressing or anxious thoughts, and that is what's making us feel not so great about our reality. But in any moment, we can move our attention away from those thoughts, and we can it goes from doing to being, from searching for happiness to actually living it right now in this very moment, and allowing those thoughts, when we don't believe the content of them, which is the key thing. The thoughts aren't a problem. It's when we believe the content of the thoughts. And in any moment, we can let that float across like clouds in the sky, and we realize that we're here and we're present and we're whole.
So what I'm hearing is that it's to let go of the efforting. Like, you're still saying, okay, we can turn our attention from that negative thought. That can be turned, but
the attention goes into itself. It doesn't go to some other thought, some better thought or some positive thought. The attention stops going out into that thought, and it just returns to itself. So attention pays attention to itself. Attention rests in itself. And it sounds like it could be passive, but what happens then is you touch into this aliveness that's here, that unfolds, that allows life to emerge so beautifully. And we're in that reality and not living as if these negative and limiting thoughts were true.
I want to try and find an example of one of those thoughts that we might have.
Many people have self-critical thoughts.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that might be something that your listeners can identify with. So there's often this tape running through about self-criticism, and everybody's version is different. Some of that language is quite harsh about how we think and feel about ourselves.
One would say we would never speak to another as harshly as we speak to ourselves inside our own head.
That's right. And that thought pattern becomes habitual, and then it becomes an identity. You believe that that's who you are, that one that's less than or incapable, or not one to have one's dreams fulfilled. And you believe that that's who you are, and that's very painful and very limiting. But these are only thoughts. I don't want to say...
No, just right there.
Yes.
Now, if we were doing the law of attraction, then we do affirmations. They're like, I am capable, I am, and we'd figure out different ones that feel good for us and that we can believe in.
It only works if you actually believe it. And, I think you take someone who's quite self-critical and you have them try to believe affirmations, that it doesn't feel real. So what we're talking about here is not a belief, not believing you're better than as opposed to worse than, but it's more about letting go of all of that and recognizing that there's a truth here. There's a beingness. We all know it. There's a foundation at the source of everything where we know we're fully alive. It's life. We're fully alive. We are expansive. We are loving. We're in touch with the love. We don't have to worry about being fearful of things. And this is a natural way of being.
So no matter what our childhood was and how our father was an alcoholic or whatever it was, whatever story we're talking about, that doesn't hold sway if we go to this place.
It's a radical idea to say that we are not our stories. We think we are our stories. And these are what cause suffering in our lives. And when we consider that maybe that is not who I am, that's the dawn of the possibility of realizing that you can be happy right in this moment. Maybe you don't have to define yourself by that story. And I encourage people to try it out. What if you don't define yourself by your story? Just allowing things to unfold is a very relaxing way of being.
So one of the things that we would need to do is to notice our thoughts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a key ingredient here because many of them, we're unconscious of them. They just kind of go play themselves by themselves without any prompting from us, and we don't even notice we're doing it.
And even if we're trying to be super aware of them, they sneak in. They're sneaky.
Yeah.
So, yes, we have to be very aware of how we suffer, because then we can make a choice. If we don't know that we're suffering and we're unconscious, we are making a choice, but we don't realize we're doing that. But when that suffering becomes very palpable and we're very aware of it and alert to it, we can make a choice. I don't want to go into that negative thought pattern again, and I don't need it. That's the other thing. We think we need these identities. What am I if I'm not this self-critical being who feels inadequate? And I would say test it out. That's a good question. Who are you if you're not that? And you'll find that you're fully alive.
So what I get is that you're saying suffering takes quite a bit of effort.
It does. We have to keep these stories going, and it takes effort. It might feel in the beginning like it takes effort to not believe the stories, and there's a certain reality to that. But this effortlessness eventually comes where we don't have to believe these stories, and we create them, and we create them over and over, and we live in them, and we contract in them, and it's a difficult way of being, and it doesn't have to be.
How did you, Gail, find those stories that you were telling yourself, those habitual stories that were attached to habits of thought?
I first had to know to look. And even though I'm a therapist, I was in therapy for a long time, 15 years, and no therapist, they were very nice people that I worked with, ever told me to look at my stories, to recognize, like, what are you thinking in this moment that's causing trouble? What is happening that you're feeling in this moment? Not in my past, and not about what might happen at some other time, but what's happening right now. No one ever guided me to look at my direct experience in the moment. And this is revolutionary, where you're not just buying into the stories from the past. You're looking at right now in this moment. It's about the moment. So no one ever told me that. And then when I learned, oh, I can look at my right now experience, and I saw so much fear and so much negativity and so much my mind telling me what I can't do over and over. There was so much of that. I was shocked. I didn't realize that all of that was going on until I looked at my in-the-moment experience.
So many therapies really take us on a journey of all those stories and why you're feeling this way or why you're feeling that way because of this that happened in your childhood.
Yes.
So you delve in, you even go deeper into the story, seems to me,
Absolutely.
many times.
And it's trying to move the puzzle pieces around to create a better story or to somehow come to some resolution, but within the story. And as a therapist, what I found is that essentially in the end does not work. You might have to work with people's stories for some time, but until people can realize where their attention is going in the moment and make a different choice, they're going to continue to suffer. There are new therapies that, like cognitive behavioral, is beginning in the direction, and there are mindfulness therapies now that are really, much more useful to people because they point you to your experience in the moment. Because this is where you can be happy. This is where you're suffering, and this is where you can find the freedom from your suffering.
So you're saying it's really a presence of being in the now, right here.
Realizing that you don't have to put your attention into that negative content. You don't have to let these difficult feelings be the driver in your life. There's an option, and that option is to be still, to let it go, to stop, to take a breath, to not go into all those patterns and let them just run and run and run, but to just stop. It's like a train going by the station. You don't have to get on. You can just stay there, watch it go, and you can just be there and be peaceful.
Stop, look, and listen.
Yeah. The stopping is so essential. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can be wise then. You stop, you look, you listen, then you're making a choice. You're not letting unconsciousness just take over.
Exactly. Well, I want to thank you so much, Gail, for being with us on the New Dimensions Cafe.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I've been speaking with Dr. Gail Brenner. She's the author of The End of Self-Help, Discovering Peace and Happiness Right at the Heart of Your Messy, Scary, Brilliant Life. And if you want to know more about the work of Gail Brenner and her blog, you can go to her website, gailbrenner.com. And she spells her name Gail, Gail, Brenner, BRENNER.com. Or you can get there through the New Dimensions website, newdimensions.org. I'm Justine Willis-Toms. Thank you so much for joining us on the New Dimensions Cafe, and I invite you, please do join us again.
You've been listening to the New Dimensions Cafe. This series of shorter interviews features many of the remarkable guests also featured on our internationally syndicated one-hour New Dimensions radio series. To access more than 1,000 hours of programs, to subscribe to our newsletters, or to become a member, please visit us at newdimensions.org.